Hello, everyone. My name is Tiffany, and I'm a PhD candidate from the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. I have successfully passed my Viva last month. So today I'm going to present media representations of leftover women in China, a corpus-assisted critical discourse analysis. So what is leftover women? Leftover women is a term coined by the All China Women's Federation in the media in 2007, and it was officially listed as one of the neologisms by the Ministry of Education. And the definition is single women older than 27. Interestingly, after a decade, the All China Women's Federation tried to ban the usage of this term, which they once coined. And I'm guessing the reason is because this term has attracted a lot of criticism over the past decade. And so this justified the period of my corpus is between 2007 and 2017. So based on the literature review, I found two research potentials. So the existing studies have examined the concept of leftover women in a range of fields such as sociology, media studies, and discourse studies. Some of them have mainly examined the Chinese language media with methods such as content analysis. Their findings pinpoint that the traditional patriarchal discourse prevails in the Chinese language media. So, different from previous studies, my study examines the English language news media in China, which claim to be more liberal. So, I'm interested in whether the traditional patriarchal discourse is perpetuated or contested in the Chinese English language news media. So I employ a corpus linguistic approach, which introduces a novel way of approaching the concept of leftover women and offers new insights into the topic. So my second research potential is methodological. The visibility of corpus-assisted approaches to CDA has increased over the past decade. However, only a few studies are found in the literature employing corpus-assisted CDA to investigate gender representations. So to expand on the ongoing conversation, my study contributes to the growing literature of corpus-assisted CDA in the domain of gender representation by proposing an analytical framework. So based on the literature review, I came up with a research question. How are leftover women represented regarding their attributes, activities, and evaluations? And what dominant gender discourses emerge from these representations as a result in the Chinese English language news media? And I've built a specialized corpus of media representation of leftover women, MRLWC in short. And so here are the details of my specialized corpus. The news articles were collected from China Daily, Shanghai Daily, Global Times, and Shenzhen Daily. And the table shows the details of my corpus. And to answer my research question, I investigated the immediate context surrounding the phrase leftover women with Sinclair's notion of miniship units, MSUs in short. So this table shows the definition of the 5 elements of co-occurrence in MSUs. It includes 5 categories: invariable core, collocation, colligation, semantic preference, and semantic paucity. So I propose a feminist critical approach to MSUs. And the table shows a 3-step procedure. First, MSU identifications with the assistance of some corpus linguistic tools. And second, MSU interpretation with some frameworks. Number three, MSU explanation to explain what dominant gender discourses emerging from these MSUs. And so, first, MSU's identifications. I generated the collocations of leftover women within a span of 5 and with wordsmith tool. And the minimum frequency for collocations to be considered is 8 times. It resulted in a manageable set of collocations which account for 70% of total recurrent collocations. So if you look at the right side, this table shows all the collocations that I have examined. And so after generating all the collocations, I further categorize them into different word classes. And I mainly examined the content words because they are the carriers of information. So I use these content words together with leftover, woman with a wildcard, including the singular and the plural forms. And then I generated a 3-word congruent search. So 3-word congruent search is similar to the idea of concordances. And so I generated 682 concordance lines, and they were further exported to an Excel spreadsheet for qualitative analysis, as not all incidences of leftover women and their co-occurring content words constitute MSU. If you look at the 3 examples below, the first example, leftover women and China, are considered an MSU because China is the post modifier for leftover women. In the second example, leftover women and China do not constitute an MSU because, as you could see, they were separated in two different clauses, and so they do not constitute a single unit of meaning. And in the last example, although leftover women and China co-occur together in one single clause, however, if you look closely, China is a post modifier for public debate, and it doesn't describe leftover women. And so they do not constitute an MSU. So the basic idea of MSU is to see whether leftover women and its frequent collocates habitually co-occur together and constitute a single unit of meaning. And so after identifying all the MSUs, I used these CDA frameworks to do the interpretation and further categorize them into different semantic preferences and semantic prosodies. So Vaneuven's social semantic approach is very useful because it helps me to identify the discursive strategies that are used to represent leftover women's attributes and activities. Chatterjee Black's critical metaphor analysis, CMA in short, is also very useful because it helps me to examine the concept and stereotype of leftover women, which are metaphorical to begin with. LASA's Feminist Critical Discourse Analysis, FCDA in short, is also very useful because it enables me as an analyst to reflect upon my analytical process from a feminist critical perspective. And so here is a screenshot of my analysis. A total of 292 MSUs were identified. Key findings. 3 semantic preferences and 13 semantic prosodies associated with leftover women were identified. The table shows the percentage of each semantic preference and semantic prosody. And so the attributes of leftover women are related to their mature age, attractive appearance, single status, high socioeconomic status, and urban residents. And leftover women tend to be represented as the recipients of discriminatory actions and the agents of passive actions. And both positive and negative evaluations were found related to leftover women. So the negative positives include otherness, social discrimination, and passiveness, and they arguably contribute to the traditional patriarchal discourse. The positive positives include disapproval of neologism, distinguished women, and emancipation, and they also arguably contribute to the modern egalitarian discourse. So, implication of my study. My study contributes to the growing literature of corpus-assisted CDA as I propose an analytical framework. So different from existing studies, which tend to employ the notion of CDA to inform their analysis without examining discursive strategies in context. My study proposes a more integrated framework to synthesize CDA and CL so as to deconstruct the ideological representations of leftover women. And my studies also have practical implication for Chinese journalism and policymakers to raise the awareness of gender equality. To reduce the potentially sexist content in the media, it needs the cooperative efforts among media workers. The CCPPD, which is a division of the Chinese government to monitor the media industry, the All China Women's Federation, Media Watch, and others. There's no use to stigmatize women for prioritizing their education and careers in the media, which is an inevitable global trend. If a government's policy can handle the conflicts between women's careers and child care provision well, the birth rate will increase. If not, it might decline. So policymakers should consider providing affordable child care service, expanding government-funded kindergartens, and combating discrimination against married and pregnant women in the workplace. And so here are some selected references. And here are some relevant publications on the topic of leftover women written by me. And if you are interested in reading them, you are very welcome to contact me. And so here are my contact information, and I welcome your question, comment, and suggestion. Thank you very much for your attention and enjoy the conference.